This is Remarkable Regional Business. I'm Caleb Maxwell, and you're listening to part 2 of my conversation with Bonnie Phillips and Stefan Manche from Coulter Legal. If you loved the first part of this conversation, then you will love this second part. We dive into a whole lot more detail on what it looks like internally to grow their team and grow their people. So without further ado, let's jump straight back in. Tell me a little bit about how you share the roles of responsibility when it comes to leadership across the 4 of you. Is there really clearly defined responsibilities there? And how do you share decision-making, strategic direction? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. So we're a relatively new sort of leadership group, as in we've all been, the 4 of us have been part of the business, for at least 5 or 6 years, but for Tom, 25 years in the business, and Belinda about 10 years. But we've only come together as a leadership group since February this year. So we are kind of working through that process. We know that, so we know that we each need to have kind of a portfolio of what we're doing at the moment is kind of working through what our strengths are.
Yeah, good one.
But for the 3 of us coming into that role, learning as much about the business and running it as possible so that we can work out what that is first. So we're in it feels like to us a real infancy, but we understand each other well and what those strengths are. We have, a delegation of authority that's kind of set in terms of how many directors are required to make a particular decision. And so we follow that. And we've got various kind of subcommittees, say risk management, financial, that we'll report back to the 4 of us, but we're not getting bogged down in every single little decision. Yes. So those, but again, that's something that, as we started this process, Belinda took it upon herself. She reviewed the meeting structure and really rejigged that so that, again, looking at what the 4 of us do and the roles that we have within the teams that we have, how we could make that meeting, and decision-making structure work well for us. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Bonnie, but, we're in that infancy anyway.
I think that's right. And I think, as we've said, Tom White is our managing principal. He's been in the business for a very, very long time. Belinda's been with us for 10 years. Stefan and I coming in at a similar time, we've had a great exposure to the business, but also the 4 of us working together. Certainly for me, coming in as a director, I needed to really like the people I worked with, and that was a big one. I want to be in this business for a long time with these people, so you want to make sure you get along, but you can also be honest, open with each other, have that great communication, and I think that's what the 4 of us have and will always have. And as Stefan said, you can then break it down into more sub-portfolios within that. But I think we're starting off on a good foot that we get along. And I think that is important if you're having a business partner or expanding your business. You want to make sure you're bringing those right people together at the top, because if that's not working, then nothing else will, I don't think.
There's got to be that shared sense of direction and values, I suppose, that I can see that you share, which is really, really important. And the governance side of things, you're in an interesting position as principal lawyers and owners and directors of the business. There, I can hear, and man, I could just see it so easily happening that you get so bogged down and take on. You could get loaded up a lot with the responsibilities of leadership and governance specifically, that the lawyering goes out the window. Clients, what clients?
And that's a danger. That's a real risk issue. So for me, for example, yes, I'm a director and owner of the business. I also run our family and relationship law team, and then I'm a lawyer as well. So it's really like wearing 3 hats.
Wow.
And I do have to be really careful with how I structure that, because if you put too much into one basket, something else will suffer. So in my team, for example, I've got other great senior lawyers. So clients that may want to come to me, I will see them, but I will also have other lawyers assisting with that. So if I am then dealing with a team issue or involved in business decisions, those things don't fall away.
Good one.
I think then also having the four of us as directors is good, because if someone does suddenly have a really urgent matter in court, or if someone has to go on annual leave, you've got other people who can really competently pick up what else needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I think that structure really helps in that way.
Love it. Yeah, it's really fascinating getting a window on the inside of a team that's forming, but also an approach to ownership that's different. You know, I love the fact that it sounds like it's very common practice, and it would have been my understanding previously that most law firms are run by senior lawyers who get to, it's the next career progression stage if they're capable of that leadership to step up into ownership of the business.
And unfortunately, sometimes they're not that capable. And they might be wonderful lawyers, really fantastic lawyers. But I think what some firms fall into the trap of is they're a great lawyer, they bill a lot for the firm, so they should become a leader or a director. And they'll continue doing great legal work, but the business can suffer. And that's why, for example, with Belinda, we really saw the value in what she could bring to the leadership team, which is a non-lawyer role, because she can have that focus on the other areas. And I know for Stefan and myself, we enjoy that people leadership, and it's a really big part of why we wanted to be at the firm. So we've really tried to focus on that and not just do what other firms have done and bring the wrong people in, because it can then really filter down from the top.
And it's amazing. There can be a lack of understanding from existing leadership and from the individual operators, right? I see this across businesses all the time in real estate and in hospitality. Most businesses they're generally started by a great operator, and the great operators rise to the top and get more responsibility and get more responsibility to lead and to train and to make sure that the actual work of the business is getting done really well. But the danger, as you so eloquently put, Bonnie, is that you have operators that are looking for the next thing. They're looking for, where do I go next? And being a business owner is very different to operating delivering the service or product of the business.
Yes.
And just because you're a great operator does not mean that you're going to be a great owner or business leader. Man, to hear that you've kind of brought that understanding to the leadership kind of conversation, and you're injecting the right people in the right spots. Man, I can just see Coulter Legal just going crazy, which is really, really cool. Tell me a little bit about what makes you proud of the company. I want to give you an opportunity for some wins, to tell us about, what can you hang your hat on as from the business growth or the perspective of what you've been able to achieve in the company.
I think one of the really exciting things, as Stefan briefly mentioned earlier, is the new offices that we've just brought to life.
Nice.
So that's been a long time coming. We've been in the same building in Geelong for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And particularly with the growth of the business, which is a win and exciting in itself, giving our people a really amazing space to work from has been a big win. I think it's really re-energised people, particularly coming out of periods of working from home a lot more, to be able to come into a brand new, beautiful space. So our space in Geelong has been completely refurbed. We've got individual offices for our lawyers, which I know a lot of firms aren't doing, but it's something we've stuck with because we just think it allows people to do the best work and also gives them the right space to do that.
Look, it's a bit of a trend, right, of the open plan. I mean, I work in a co-working space, and I can tell you there's some really good things about it. And then there's some really challenging ones, especially for people who really like and enjoy people, right? I could easily spend my whole day just swatting around, having a chat with this person and that person, because everyone is so accessible. So you've thought a little bit differently about that and not just gone with the trend of an open plan office. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So we have offices for our lawyers and also some other key people in the business, and then we have open plan also for our support staff. So we have a hybrid, but we do also find with the subject matter we're dealing with, if we've, for example, got a difficult client in a family law matter who could be going through some really sensitive information, it's not something you necessarily want broadcast throughout an open plan.
No.
Similar with Stefan's area of the law. It's just not the kind of thing that people need to overhear or should overhear.
Yeah.
We also deal with a bit of child protection work, for example. That is really difficult subject matter.
Yeah.
So it was to help our lawyers do the best work they can, but also to preserve the confidentiality and that side of it as well for our clients.
Yep.
So that was a big part of it. And we had trialed open plan here and there. It was part of what we did when we were moving doing the refurb, and we just found, the offices work well. But we've done it in a way so everyone is very connected. So we've got, light going from each end of the office so people have that and they can see each other and they can easily pop in and speak. We have a number of both focus rooms that people can go into for really quiet, dedicated work, and also a number of collaborative meeting spaces. We've got a wellness room, so if people need to go in there and take some time out, we've got a really lovely space for that. Also for things like parents returning from parental leave, if they need to feed, pump, do those sorts of things, we really want to be inclusive and be able to do that. So we've made that a big focus, and then a really nice big events space as well. So if we want to have clients, referrers in, they can do all of that. So that's been a really exciting development.
Amazing.
And we're really proud of it.
Yeah.
And then also opening our new Melbourne office as well has been on a similar vein. So
Wow, I love it. So
Yeah.
there's this new space is in Geelong.
It is, yeah.
And so tell me, was that process like from finding the right space and that's kind of a project on the side of what you're doing in delivering your services. Tell me a bit about what it was like and what the process you went through to actually identify the right space and work with the right builder, designers, and think about that a good place to work mentality. And I'm sure you would have thought about how can we set this. This is going to be our new space. We've been in the old one for however many decades. It's going to have to last into the future, right?
Yeah. And look, it does. It actually does feel like having completed that project, we've come out of 12 months of really intense attention to that. We looked at a few options. We've actually ended up in the same building we were in, but it was completely gutted.
Wow, cool.
And so the entire floor plan is different.
Yeah.
It's unrecognizable.
Wow.
And it's also, I don't want, without being it's amazing how much better, and again, time moves on. We have different ideas. We worked with Merits who guided us through the process, did all the design.
Nice.
Came up with some really good ideas. But then we did quite a few focus groups internally with our staff, with the Merits team to work out what was the priority. So we didn't come into it saying we have to have offices or we have to have open plan. So things like the offices and focus rooms and, a good space. We've got this beautiful big social space now, which is great for internal functions, but we can also probably host 100, 150 people for client or external functions.
Wow.
That was really important to people. So having somewhere to come together properly in this, in a really beautiful, professional, comfortable setting. So those focus groups were a big part of it.
Yeah.
We did look at other sites and whether it was worth moving, but within, our clients, there was a value to our clients knowing where we are and where we've been, and sticking with that.
Yeah.
And also that, bringing in a really great designers early, who worked out, that we can actually make this space so much more usable and bright. And, and it really is. People walk in and they just can't believe it's the same office.
No,
it's, and I walk around, where did this space come from? We're somehow the this beautiful big social space that we have is huge. Our reception's more open. Our meeting rooms are bigger and more open. We've got more light, yet we fit everybody in. Everyone's got nice size. It's quite amazing. But it has been, and kudos to Belinda and to Sarah Duffy, who's our marketing manager, but was really involved in the process in really, taking the time to work through the process properly. Because, through that, working with the right people, looking at all the options and then making sure we really spoke to our people about what was important to them. We could deliver something that everybody's really excited about.
Yeah.
And it brings them along for the journey, and it makes them more invested. And I think it makes them more excited to be there, excited to be at work when they're part of that process and not just told from us what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it really has, it's a very professional office, but it also has quite a warm, inviting feel. So it's corporate, but it's also homely, which I think is nice for people, returning to the office more and having a nice sort of more familiar space available to them.
And for our clients, where, there are a lot of law firms who either do strictly commercial, focus on commercial clients, or those that focus on what we call private clients, individuals, the family law and the wills and estates work and the succession planning we do. Because we do all of that, the offices are really well suited to both. So it's smart and corporate and professional, which is great for those commercial clients, but welcoming enough that, a lot of our clients thankfully have never had to deal with lawyers before until they engage us for whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
It needs to be a welcome, inviting, comfortable place for them to come to.
Yep.
So I feel like we've really sort of got that balance right.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we've seen, and I've had a window into the development of a bunch of new court facilities. They have a very similar perspective on what the new generation of court facilities need to look like. Most of the courts that you guys will be very familiar with were built 100 plus years ago, right? And, there's none of the amenities that people take for granted in public spaces or buildings. But we've had the joy of working with Bendigo Law Courts and their development, and with the new Wyndham Law Courts. And I see that people have, and I can hear it in what you've gone through with developing a space that's right for your people, but it's also right for your clients, this understanding of what attitude, what mood, what state someone's going to be in when they engage you, and not being ignorant of the impact of a space on that person, whether it be a staff member or a client. So it's really cool to hear. I want to come to your office and just
Thanks, dude. We'd love to.
just like walk around and go, oh yeah, this is really good.
And it's funny you say that, because we've had a lot of people from the community say, can we just pop in? So we've actually been doing just little tours for people and having people in for lunch and coffees, because it is a really brand new, amazing space in Geelong. And, even with the technology we've built in, it works really well if we've got remote clients that we need to dial in as well to a mediation or something like that. So, it's really well set up to serve us.
And where is it? Let's tell people where this place is.
Yeah, so we're in the heart of the Geelong CBD.
Yep.
On Ryrie Street. If people know Geelong, we're relatively close to the Geelong Hospital. We're well situated. We're relatively close to the courts in Geelong as well. But we are in the heart of, there's quite a few professional service firms even within the building that we're in and around.
Nice.
And so, if people know Geelong, we're close to the corner of Yarra and Ryrie Street.
Love it.
Yeah, great space.
I want to switch gears a little bit. We talked about the leadership component and what it looks like to lead the company, but I want to talk about what does it take to grow a law firm from a regional base. What does it look like from? Because I've seen the brand and I've seen your what that has been presented like, and it seems wonderful and really well connected with the culture. But what does it take to grow, to connect the genius and the wonderful services that you can provide to the people who need them? What does it look like to grow a law firm?
I think there's a couple of different pathways for that. I think a big one is the people, having the right people involved. If you don't have that to begin with, I don't think it's ever going to grow well. Even if you do things successfully on social media or on other avenues, and you might get those clients through the door, if you don't have the people to service them, it's going to fall over. Yeah. So for us, it's getting those right people at a number of different levels in the business. So not all senior people, not all junior people, but the right mix. Making sure you've got specialists. So even though our business does a number of different practice areas, we don't dabble in various areas. So I am only going to do family and relationship law. Stefan will only do his wills and estates and succession planning work. And I think sometimes businesses can fall down when they try and do too many things and don't have proper expertise. So we have a number of accredited specialists who are accredited through the Law Institute of Victoria. That's what I do that for family law, but making sure you've got the right people in the right roles. Then I think making sure you're building the right relationships with the clients and the community is key as well. So in terms of our clients, I really think building the right relationship with them from the start is important. So one of the things we do in family law, for example, is we have a no-cost initial conference with them. Some people might think, oh, that sounds a bit cheap, but I actually see it as the reason you build that relationship from the start. You know, if you show that trust of, I just want to get to know you, what's important to you, then we can talk about fees and costs and how we're going to manage that later. People are much more open. They are more honest, I think, and you can really build that rapport. So that's something we've found works really, really well in our team, and I enjoy doing it. It's a nice way to give back to people who need your help.
I love that perspective because it points to something I believe as well, is that there's in any business there's an ideal client, and that everybody is not going to be your ideal client, right? And so there's a low risk, there's an opportunity for a low risk interaction and a relationship, starting a relationship, just to initially find out if this person is going to be right for you and you're going to be right for them. And by taking down the barriers to finding out that most crucial first question, are we going to work well together? And are we the right fit for the outcome you need? Is genius. Good job.
So that works really well. And as you said, it builds that relationship from the start, make sure it's the right fit from the start. And we can also then allocate their matter correctly between the right lawyer, or even if it needs to be a change in department.
Love it.
So I think the people, how you build those relationships with clients, and then also keeping up with the times. You know, we see a lot of law firms who are, for example, still paper-based. They're not on social media. You know, and they're losing a lot of, I guess, that, you know, marketing and growth that they could achieve. So we've been one of the first regional firms to pick up a lot of that technology, which has been exciting, and it's definitely served us well. So yeah, I think that making sure you're not falling behind the times is really important.
What are some examples of that in the technology side and your adoption of modern marketing practices?
A big one for us was a number of years ago, a company launched a program for initial client intake. So it would basically allow the clients to fill in information on quite a detailed level before they came to the firm. I think we were the first law firm in Victoria to pick that up. So, and which is quite amazing for a regional firm as well, to be the first to take on that technology. So that for us was one of, I guess, the main things we did. We have a really great IT team, so they were able to really help with that process. And it did set us apart from a lot of the other firms and really grew the business. I think as well, it's not so much tech, but having different offerings for how we charge our clients, which Stefan's probably best to speak to, because it gives clients options that they may otherwise.
I love it. Tell me about that.
So again, really early adopters for a regional firm and a firm of our size, but for quite a few practice areas, including wills and succession planning, we offer value-based pricing. And so most people will think of lawyers as in billing in that 6-minute units against an hourly rate. And where the relationship is, we provide an estimate. We do that very carefully because there are still parts of big parts of law which that's really the only way to do it, because we don't know at the outset how much work's going to be involved in a matter. But where there's opportunity to scope out the work at the outset, we can apply value-based pricing to say, look, this is the work that we need to do. This is, and again, that comes after pretty significant initial discussion. We understand what's important to the client. We understand what the value of the work is to the client. And we can provide pricing which gives them certainty, but also gives them part of the discussion. So so it is a two-way discussion about price rather than, here's the hourly rate and how big the final bill is going to be is how long is a piece of string. People can say, well, look, in our space, there are certain things that we would put in place for very complex high net wealth families with business interests and trusts, and if we were to apply exactly that same mould to mum and dad with 2 kids and a house and a couple of bank accounts, we're over servicing them, and none of that is of value to them.
Yes.
So we can have the discussion, right? What is important to you? Therefore, we will, provide you with this package that gives you this certainty, and we can do that, regardless of the type of client or the work that's involved, and clients then have this certainty around what the process is going to cost, and to be able to, we can sort of move things back and forth depending on what's valuable to them.
That is so cool. That's exactly how the modern design agency works, the modern video production agency works. It's really sorting out at the start what is going to be valuable and what their client needs. That certainty, being able to give them that certainty of this is how much this work is going to cost you, I could imagine that would reduce a fair amount of anxiety and stress throughout the process, because their eye is no longer on, do I want to take this next step that is being put before me because it might cost me more than I thought I was going to budget. All of that takes the finance lens off and goes, well, we can just get stuck into the work and we can get the outcome you want, and you can know that this is how much it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
And from a business perspective, having worked at other firms that did not have value-based pricing, we do fixed fees in our family law work, for example, for similar reasons.
Yeah.
Firms that don't do that, clients often get bill shock and there's far more complaints. So as a business, you're actually then spending more of your time dealing with client complaints. There might be complaints to the Legal Services Commissioner.
Wow.
So we don't see as much of that at all, because we are much more transparent with the fees, and the clients have that involvement, they have the discussions, they understand what they're paying. We're not perfect, and I don't think there's ever a perfect scenario for billing and charging clients, but it is a much more transparent process. And when you have that from the start, it reduces the pain at the end, I think.
I wonder how much of the reputation of lawyers comes from the bill shock factor, right?
It's terrible.
Of going, the lawyer's going to charge you through the nose. And maybe if they just had known what it was going to be charged at the start, they wouldn't have that resentment at the end, right? To go, I got the outcome, but, it cost me more than I thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. All right, I want to land towards the end of our conversation here on what does it take to be a great lawyer? Like, what are you looking for when you're looking at potential new hires? What are you looking internally at your team in how they can grow and expand in their skills and their competency? But in your different departments, I'm sure there are different kind of skills and personalities required. But I can imagine dealing with people when they're in a high stress environment, or when they're in a really challenging point in their life, or even with succession planning. Stefan, you would have seen it so much that there's in families, for example, in agriculture. Whoa. I mean, talk about a tangled mess sometimes, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a lot of emotion in there. What does it take to be a really good lawyer? It's not just about the law and your knowledge, right? Tell me what it...
So a huge thing, and again, this is coming down to our sort of the spaces that we work within. For us, it's that being able to build rapport quickly with clients. Like we have limited time with them often, at least to begin with, and we need to collect it. The advice we provide is only as good as the information we get from our clients. A lot of the time. And so if we can't, brought agriculture into it, that's a great example. Of often groups of people who don't want to talk about dying. They don't want to face
the
transition. Yeah, well, exactly. But they don't want to face that transition to the next generation. There are complications with kids staying on the farm, not on the farm. How are we going to balance these things out? Really difficult conversations. And if we're trying to start that from the first minute of the meeting, I can tell you we're not going to get anywhere.
No.
So you can be as technically brilliant as you like, but in these particular areas, if you're not able to build that rapport quickly, it's also then asking the right questions that follow that so you can identify the particular issues. So there is a real need to have a deep technical understanding.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just showing some interest in what is important to that client. Like that, so learning a little bit about, we're not diving straight into tell me what the property's worth or like tell me about the business, tell me about the farm, tell me how long it's been in the family.
Yep.
Tell me about the dynamics, tell me about what have been challenges, tell me what do you want to do in the next 5-10 years. They're not all directly, succession related,
Detail.
but they build the picture. That gives us the ability to then ask those follow-up questions, draw out the information that we need so we can work out what's important and start to provide some advice. But it's not diving in at the,
Love that.
bull in a china shop sort of approach. It really is. And again, it's not about taking forever or having 3-hour meetings, but it's just building a bit of a relationship that's trusting so that we can, again, get the full picture, understand. It's often, and I'll let Bonnie jump in next, but it's often about knowing who the right people are to bring in that aren't you.
Yeah.
So, again, we work with clients. Often we work directly with their accountants or their financial advisors. It's being really clear what you don't know and what you don't need to be the expert on, bringing in the right experts so that, we make sure that, some of the worst agricultural family issues we see are where the lawyer's just taken on what the client said in terms of ownership of assets and structures and things like that, hasn't looked into it any further, hasn't spoken to the accountant, and what they set up just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's really about knowing, this piece is going to, the accountant sees this family 4 times a year, every quarter. They've done that for 20 years. They know the business more intimately than I could in an hour appointment.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring them in for that piece of the information and the discussion.
Right.
So it's knowing what you don't know as well.
Love that. What does that look like in family and relationship law?
Very similar. So yes, you need the technical expertise, but that is something that can be taught and developed. So when I have a more junior lawyer coming in, for example, I'm not as concerned by their technical expertise, but more about their attitude. Are they willing to learn? Do they have empathy? Can they build that rapport with clients? And do they have that willingness? So I think that's really that first part of it for me. On the other end of the spectrum, when you're trying to grow a business and a team and make sure you've got really good, solid lawyers, you need senior people who are willing to mentor and teach. So bringing in really good mentors who impart their knowledge on the more junior people, are willing to share. They're not the sort of lawyers who just want to hold the work to themselves, but can really spread that between the team and help, I guess, demonstrate what they've done over years and years and years. So looking at that senior group, that's really important to me, the expertise and the mentoring and the teachings. And then in the more junior group of lawyers, that willingness and that drive and that passion. And, I find that so exciting. And I love seeing them grow from, really green lawyers to then seeing them flourish and start taking on their own clients. And, they're appearing in court and they're really grown. So I think it's a real combo, but I think the personality and those more softer skills are so key.
Yeah, I love that. It really builds a picture of how you help people become the best version of themselves, because ultimately that's what it's about, right? That I get it, and it really annoys me in some interactions, professional interactions. I can see when someone's bringing who they are and they feel comfortable and relaxed in who they are. And bringing that vibe, that sense of confidence and self to an interaction. And when someone's got their professional robot self on, where they're like, this is the right question to ask me. What do you think?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you walk into a family law meeting with a new client, as Stefan mentioned, they've probably never seen a lawyer before. They may not have even engaged with professionals in that capacity before. Yeah. And they might be talking about really delicate, difficult subject matter.
Yeah.
If you start regurgitating the law and the sections of the Act, you've lost them. That's not the point. The point is to build that trust and confidence and then start looking at how we're going to resolve whatever's going on for them. If you just walk in with that robotic mindset, it's just not going to work. Anyone can do that.
Yeah. People want to deal with people that
Correct.
they like, they trust. And it's really hard to do that if you can't actually get to know the person, if you can't see that person listening and empathizing. And like I went through a stage where I was like, I don't want to deal with anyone in my life that I don't genuinely know. And like that comes down to my barber, right? I don't have time to go and interact with someone who's not being themselves. And so I love that about what you bring to the table on the professional services and on the law side of things, is that you are helping your people grow as individuals, but you're looking for people who are actually able and capable to build rapport with the clients. It's so important.
Look, we're like every other business, we're looking at things like AI and the impact that that's going to have on. If we're not connecting with our clients, if they don't feel that sense of something beyond just the technical aspect, we don't have a place. Like the AI at some point will be able to do a great job. Again, we're always going to say we do a better job, but really, I think for our clients, it's that, is there somebody I can call when there's an issue? Is there somebody who understands me enough where I don't have to give them this full background every time, or I don't have to do this. They know me, they know the business, they know the circumstances. I'm confident in the approach they're going to bring to it. That's where our value is. And for all of our lawyers, yes, we've got Coulter Legal as a firm and a brand. We're working with all of our lawyers to develop their own personal brand. That's a big part of our, I sort of talked a lot about marketing, but that's a big part of, is that encouraging, we're all individuals encouraging our lawyers to, as they progress, to develop their own personal brand.
Love
as
that.
well.
Yeah, love that. Well, how are you helping and saying, leading the way in that, or just saying, this is how you do that?
Yeah. Well, for all of our lawyers, we develop with them an individual business development plan.
Nice.
And so we work through what their particular strengths are, what they enjoy doing, and then work out how they can use that to build their brand. So, some people do their best work in a room of 200 people and they just flourish, and where others, might as well not have wasted that 3 hours because they just, they need that one-on-one. Some people are really great at writing content, but don't like presenting. So it's working out what those skill sets are and finding the right channel for them. I've gone through the process myself where we started our own podcast. And again, it works really well for our clients who are individuals. We historically have put out, articles and information sheets, and I'm certain that nobody reads them. But we seem to have connected with people with this podcast.
Love it.
Where people come in and I've listened to 6 episodes and I feel like I know you already because we've heard,
Yes.
So all these different things and I, probably similar to yourself and Bonnie, I like people. I like talking to people. So that's it's quite innovative. I don't think there's any other regional firms doing that. But it's also, it fits within the strength.
You don't have to sell me on the value of a podcast.
They're so good. But, again, not everybody in my team or in Bonnie's team is going to feel comfortable behind a microphone or on camera. But there are so many other things we can help them develop. So it's really individual, working towards this, the broader business plan that we have for Coulter Legal, but having those individuals building themselves within that.
Wow. This is blowing my mind. I love, it's just like an onion peeling back layer by layer, how you're able to drive the business forward by investing in individual people. And like that, if I was to sum up our conversation, that'd be it. How do you set people up to be the best they can be and work together in a team they want to be in and they can see a future for themselves in? It's just like, man, I love Coulter Legal.
Aw.
So good. We're coming to the end of our chat together. I wonder if there's any kind of nuggets of wisdom that you guys are wanting or willing to share about either your personal success in business and getting to where you are, or more broadly, what does it take to run a really great business in a regional area?
I think you hit the nail on the head. The people is key. And certainly that is what I think the cornerstone of our business is making sure those people are happy, they enjoy coming to work, they're getting fulfillment out of that, and feeling that success for themselves is so important, and they work well together. I think also being really clear on what you want your business to look like is really important, and having a clear business plan from the start, and then going back to it, not sort of losing sight of what the goal is, not growing exponentially if that's not what you planned, and really making sure there's that clear, I guess, vision and mission and what you want to achieve. So that's the real key parts for me. And I think if you enjoy what you do and your people are enjoying what they're doing, they're going to do a good job. And that's always been something that I've been really passionate about. Even sort of going through school and uni for me was making sure I've always done things I've loved and throughout my career. And that's what led me to Coulter Legal, is I knew it would be the right place for me to do that. And having the right people and team around me has allowed me to do that. So enjoying what you do, I think, is really important.
I love that. There's a few elements there that are business basics, but a lot of people tick the box and don't actually understand why. And so I like what you're saying about coming back to the business plan, actually having a plan that, not for having a plan's sake, but having a plan that you actually want to see it achieved, and not looking at growth as an exponential factor. Like, you need to look at a mate of mine runs a great little business here locally, said one of the key factors of success, he reckons, is understanding the parameters of your business, where it can go to, and not just thinking it's, you're going to shoot for, I'm going to be the next Google. Like, putting an aspiration out there that's, one, probably unachievable, or two, you wouldn't want, right? And so I like hearing what you said much earlier in our conversation about the sweet spot for Coulter Legal to be able to operate the way you want it to operate, and to maintain the culture and the level of service, being an 80 to 100 kind of personnel team, really shows a lot of wisdom in what that plan is, and understanding the destination and when you're going to be able to hit it, right? So good. What have you got for me?
So I think from a regional perspective, we've seen, I think, one of the wins, or the importance of being connected in the community within which you work or your business operates. I think that's been key to the success of the firm, and I think that will continue to be key to future success.
Good one.
And that's that, again, similar to this podcast, is not necessarily just being connected for the sake of getting business. It's actually giving something to the community without any expectation of things coming back. But knowing that you're an important part of the community, and if everybody's doing well, the business does well. And that's something really interesting to see, like the impact, say, COVID had, where coming out of that, we had to be really conscious again about reconnecting. So not just sitting back on this, we've got we're lucky, we've got a name, the name of the firm is recognised in Geelong because of the length of time it's been there and the size. But we couldn't just rest on that. We had to be really conscious about reconnecting. I think we've probably sort of doubled down on efforts in terms of, we've got a lot of members of our team on, say, boards of community organisations. We partner with some very specific, Geelong, Torquay, sort of Bellarine specific charitable organisations. We just work really. We work on having really strong relationships with the other businesses in Geelong and Melbourne and the surrounds, and I think that's, like, particularly in regional centres, that's really, really important.
Stefan, that's huge, and I'm getting chills thinking about the vision you cast there is being understanding that every person and every business is an integral part of a community. What makes a community thrive is the people within it. And the responsibility of a business is huge in that it provides a livelihood for the people and crucial services for the community. But to understand that you're not there just to make money or to pump your own tires, but there's a greater responsibility outside of the growth of your internal company, but to actually be a powerful part and take responsibility for the community as a whole.
Yeah.
Whoa. It's big. It's big. We've ended on a big note. I love that. Hey, thank you so much for spending the time with me. Like, we've gone a lot of places in this conversation and they've all been amazing. So thank you for just having a sense of generosity in what you've learned and how you operate. But yeah, coming here and being willing to share that, it's been an honor.
Thank you, Caleb. It's been great to be here.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thanks. And you keep up the good work on this podcast.
Agreed.
Thank you. Well, that's it on today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you are listening, then please make sure that you follow the show, Remarkable Regional Business Podcast, so that you get new updates on when we release episodes. We've got a lot of limited series coming up, so don't miss out on those. And if you are watching, that's right, this podcast is video as well. If you are watching this episode, then please on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and click the little bell so you know when the next episode is dropping. That'd be so good. And please, the last thing I want to ask you is, do you know a remarkable regional business? If you do, and you want an insight into their story and to see them platformed on this podcast, then please dob them in. You can go to hebronfilms.com/podcast to do that.